Hi everybody, it's Gail with part 3 to our Let's Make a Traveler's Notebook. From the last video, I have made an adjustment. I had painted this yellow. I wasn't liking the yellow because my stitching, my random funky stitching wasn't covered by the yellow paint, and I just didn't like it. Just seemed too stark, and it had a more chalky feel or something that I didn't like so much. So I covered up the yellow with a little bit of the ocean blue color I had. Let me show you what I put on top of that. It's right here in front of me. I let that dry for a while, and then I used this Distress paint by Tim Holtz, Mowed Lawn. It's an acrylic paint for multiple surfaces, it says. I went over that and kind of spread it. Then I took some brown umber, which it was called. It's one of the acrylic paints in those bottles that are about that tall. And I put some in a little container, dabbed my brush in it, and just kind of hit it over my finger and then tried to like flick it on. I did that out on the kitchen counter on some pages from the catalog, so I didn't get it all over my craft area, even though my craft area is not exactly tidy. I didn't want to totally mark up my surface here. Anyway, so I like this a little bit better. It's not quite as bright, but I think it has a fun texture. It almost looks like a painted aged wood to me. I've always liked the splatter effect, so that's what I did. On the inside, I just did the Mowed Lawn and then kind of wiped it down a little bit to give it a little bit of texture, visual texture. Plus, I had gotten some spots from my original painting and it just looked sloppy, so I covered it up with that. So now the decision is, do we do the center or do we do the lengthwise stitches? I think it's a kind of a toss-up on convenience. So let's go ahead and do the main strings, the attaching strings. I made this very feeble diagram, but I will talk you through it because it would be hard to decipher it otherwise. I have a couple different kind of needles here. I have these needles that I use. They're actually called doll making needles. I got those at Walmart, and one of those might actually work okay if I can fit the elastic through it. The elastic's pretty thick, so I'm thinking perhaps a thicker needle might work. It's got a thick, the main part here is thick, but the opening is a little wider. But I also have these yarn needles that could be easier to thread. So as you can see, those size eyes are comparable in width. This one is a little longer, so I'll get that one out. Generally try to close these up in between uses so they don't fall out and get lost. Okay, for this length, I measured my other TN yesterday. We're going to, this will hold 4 strands the way I'm going to do it. Even though there's 3 holes, it'll have 4 strands. So you want to count out like 1, 2, 3, 4. I added quite a bit extra. I don't want to add that much extra on this elastic because I don't, oh actually that's the wrong one. Let me back up. This brown or tan elastic is what I'm going to use for the center. So I need to back up a little. These will work well for this, I think, when we do this closure, but for this part I wanted to do just these thinner cording, elastic cording. So let's open this back up. Glad I caught that. Let's see if this one works. I think these all came in the same set, and it was kind of nice. They work really good for journaling when you're sewing your signatures because they're long. So I just need to trim that to get a closed edge, like that's not frayed. And of course, getting it through there will be our challenge of the day. It doesn't want to go in, even though it's small. So let's just try this. There we go, no problem with that. Okay, I'm giving myself, what is this, 6 inches, a little bit extra to work with for tying and so forth. So let's count out 1, 2, without stretching it, because that could be misleading. Shaking it off of there. 3, unravel a little bit more, unwind a little more. 4, and I'm just going to come over just a little bit, and hopefully that will work. Again, I need to learn to be more precise. It would probably serve me well, but not today. Okay, the first thing we want to do is to start here. So start at your, make sure you have your bottom middle hole, and I have poked these several times and they still look like they're closing up, but they work fine. Let's pull that through. Actually, my apologies. Let's start here. We want to start here. The top one. Start at the top hole. Bring it through and just leave some there. Okay, we're going to end up tying it. Let me show you what this is going to look like when we're all done. We're going to have a center knot on one of them. Okay, so these two are single. The center hole is holding the 2 threads. So actually it could have gone in either way. It's just how my brain works to do it this way. Okay, so now come across from the front now and enter into the left puncture, your left elastic hole. Okay, so what it looks like now is our original starting thread. We can pull that up a little. I'm coming around the back, and I'm coming all the way down the length here. So you see we are going to get our left elastic string. Now go through the inside left, far left hole, pull your elastic through, and while you're in the back there, come through the middle hole. So what this is doing is making all our elastic at the top and the bottom with the length of the elastic on the inside where our inserts are going to attach. I know. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now we're going to go back through the center hole, right through there. Just hold your elastic off to the side. Well, and if you can pull it over, you don't want to catch it like I just did. Just poke it through without going through the elastic, because that'll kind of be difficult to work with. All right, we just want to make sure that's taut there. Okay, so we have our first thread or string. We have our middle string. Now we're going to do our second loop, over to the second hole, the one off center. So the one to the right. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, here's our original. We went through the top, went across, came through the center, crossed over at the bottom, went up to the top, poked it through, and now we came through the far right hole. Okay, we're getting there. It's getting exciting because soon you're going to have a TN. Now, come through the bottom right hole. So poke it through there. Keep the elastic out of the way so we don't go through it because that's going to be really hard to undo and it's going to be tangly. You know, you can kind of play around with the tightness too. You could stick a couple inserts in there. Sometimes they kind of will curl a little. I'm trying to keep it snug but not extremely tight. Okay, now for our last threading, I'm going back through this bottom center hole. Try not to catch any of the previously threaded through elastics. Okay, so now what we have is 2 loose ends. I'm going to take off my needle and now I'm going to tie these. Let me show you what we're doing. That is becoming this center knot. And you can see how this pulls a little bit. It's like a little guitar there. So it's a little bit taut, but when you put the inserts in there, they're nice and snug. I could probably do to tighten up mine just a little. So we'll just pull those all through following our insertion. Let's see how that's looking there. Good. Kind of like a nice snap, and then I feel like they're snug. Okay. Okay, so there we go. That's pulling up a little bit more now. Can you see that? Now, I'm going to tie, I'm just going to do like a double knot. But you can do what you want. So I'm just tying those last 2 thread pieces together. Kind of tricky to do a double knot here with this elastic. You could probably knot it off anyway that you are comfortable doing. So there's a lot of extra here. I way overcut. And I'm just trying to decide if that's tight enough. Making that knot nice and secure. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to cut that and leave a little, I don't want that much dangling. That just looks sloppy to me. I'm going to cut off a little bit, throw it in my little trash bin there, and then there you go. There are your 4 strands. I still think that one's a little loose. I may go back and tighten that, but for now let's move on. So, see on the outside, we just have the 2 holes and just the 2 loops going across, so it doesn't really show hardly at all. Now we're going to do the center closure. And when I measured that yesterday, I'm looking for my notes. I put those off to the side somewhere. Now I can't find them. I think it was about 5.5. So let's just look at the one I have. And let's measure off of that again because I can't find it. If I pull these loops straight out, I get about 5 inches. So I'm thinking maybe not even that, 4.5. If I double that, it's 9. So I might make it about 9 or 10 inches for the closure. This one has stretched out of shape a little bit. I don't know if that's visible. It's much thinner at the base here. I'm always afraid that's going to tear, but so far it's held up. And the way that this came was that it was knotted and then they did like a melting, it looks like, or put some glue on there. It looks like it was melted together, so it wouldn't unravel. So let's take our next elastic. If this is the kind you have, just use that. I have used that for closures and it works. This is just a little more secure, and that actually matches kind of nicely together. And I think it'll look really good there. Another thing that would be good would be brown, but I don't have brown, so I'm going to do about 10 inches. I just had to say goodbye. I thought my son was going to work, but he's not quite leaving yet. So anyway, So let's do a loose 10 inches. Still have quite a bit. I'm going to just, because I want to be safe, maybe go a little bit away from that. Now you can thread these through one at a time and knot them, or you could knot them ahead and then poke it through using like a sharp pen tip, or probably the awl would puncture it. Something that's got a little point to it that'll poke it through. I think I want to try doing the one at a time. So take your awl, just loosen up that hole that keeps wanting to stretch out. I could poke it through. I forgot I have the needles right in front of me. I'm just going to thread them through with the needles. Aha. So this larger eye needle that's really thick, that went in there fine. So I'm poking that through. It's coming through over here. Got to work with it a little bit. Just pull it through enough that you can tie it. Now let's do the other end. Watch, this will be the one I can't get back through the eye. Another good reason to have a little extra length cut is if you have to keep trimming it in order for it to fit through the eye of the needle, then you can do that. So annoying. Like it went through magically the first time. Let's try angling it. Let's see what that does. There we go. Yay. Okay. What I want to do is get it back through the same hole, but I don't want to puncture the elastic that's in there already, because then you're pulling it up through the elastic and it frays and it's just a mess. So try to pull that over, grab it with your thumb, or however you can manage. There, I got the needle through, so at this point we're good. And I just want to work that a little, shake it. There we go. Pull off your needle, and now you have the two ends. Oh my gosh, hang on. I just pulled it all the way through. Let me redo that and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm trying this. I got them both in this large eyed needle. I want the inside cut edges on the inside of the journal. Let's see if we can get this to work. Okay, now I'm just going to pull through the other end. So see, that's the loop that's going to wrap around our journal. So before I do the same mistake again, I just want to knot this without pulling that back through. You know, you can do the, what am I trying to say, like the, gosh, double knot, or just a regular knot. But I think I'm going to try the regular knot on this part because I don't have quite as much length to work with. So I didn't want to get a whole lot of bulk in the spine. So I'm just pulling them together and just your basic old knot. I may go back later and just take a lighter or a candle, a candle flame or a match, and do those ends. Okay, now I'm just gonna slide the needle through, and there you go. One thing that may happen, which happened with my original one, is this hole eventually may get loose and you might need to add another knot to your closure thread. Or what you can do is put like a little washer there or a button. I did that my first time when I just had used it and it just kind of stretched, and eventually the hole was too big to hold the elastic tightly. So see, this is still a little bit loose, but let's try it with the inserts in it, if I can find them. They are around here somewhere. I'm going to take the same ones I had in my other book for now and just put them in here so we can get a feel for how this looks. So we have 1, we have 2, 3, sorry, I can show you, 3 and 4. I have this insert with what we call a dashboard around it because I think that's cute. I just wanted to use this. It's just a fancy thing. It's not a necessary thing. I can put those in one of those two center ones, and that gives you an idea of how that would look. I could put more in. I have two more threads here, 2 more strings, and I didn't design this to go real thick, but I'll grab one off camera real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, this one is a little bit wider than your typical standard size. It might not be a standard, it might need to be cut down. But I just want to show you how many you can fit on there. Okay, so there you go. That one is bigger, so it's sticking out a little bit when I close it. Not too bad. Actually, it's not. I just need to tuck it in there. When those inside ones are tight, it will help hold these securely. So, you know, you can go back and undo your thread and tighten it. Now let's see if this holds. I'm going to bring that around. And there we go. We have a nice, inexpensive traveler's notebook. Chances are you have, whoops, it goes this way. I was doing that upside down. You have a lot of these things at home, very likely, if you're already doing crafting. Any kind of paint you can try. I'm noticing it is cracking a little bit there. I didn't have that problem with my first one, but I did have a much wider spine that kind of gradually flared out. Well, I don't need to switch that. You get the idea. So here's the pocket. You know, that's fun to put any kind of little cute sticker popping out, or maybe here I have a little card from Growly Leather. You know, something that's a little ornamental, or maybe just something that you like. So try this out if you want. It's not too hard. It takes a few hours, and then you have the size traveler's notebook that you want to experiment with before you make a more expensive purchase. You can find inexpensive notebook covers at Michael's. Trying to think of where else I've seen them. There's some on Etsy, maybe getting a little more expensive depending on the kind of cover you choose. But I think this is a great DIY way to make a traveler's notebook and experiment with various sizes. This is the standard or narrow. I think it turned out pretty cute. I'm actually kind of pleased. If you don't look too close at some of my flaws here, it works. I could glue something over that, even a ribbon or maybe washi tape, but you know, it's okay. It is what it is. It's a $2 traveler's notebook. So I hope that was helpful. I hope that was fun for some of you, and I would be interested to hear if you try this and if there is a size traveler's notebook that you're thinking about purchasing, how you might like trying to make a test version before you spend the money, or make one and just use that as your traveler's notebook for a while and see how you like it. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.